What's good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today's video is on Transformers Robots in Disguise. So, as previously mentioned in one of my more recent videos where I talked about the Transformers Robots in Disguise TV show that was supposed to be coming out, apparently it's already out. Now, I'm not sure if that's true necessarily on if it's just true on the internet or if it's also true on TV, but for some reason when you look on certain websites online, you see a lot of, well, let's just say, you only really see trailers, you really don't see much of the actual show, and yet you have to wonder why that is, even though like the websites, even Wikipedia itself still says it's supposed to be coming out like March 14th, March 15th, March 16th, like around that time. Certain sites say 14th, certain sites say 15th, certain sites say 16th. For some reason, the other night I was looking online and I saw that apparently the first 3 episodes were up online. Clearly, they probably wanted to do they wanted to really start it off strong and really get a lot of stuff going for them. And believe me when I say this, it surprised me. So, if you're wondering why it's like, whoa, I just made this video recently about that I'll be doing this, and then suddenly I said that it would be taking a while. Yes, I know, and just is what it is. So anyway, guys, this video. So other than that, we're gonna do it as a we're gonna do this review, and just wanted to make that clear. So if anyone's confused as to why it's like, wait, I just made this video and now that's happening. Yeah, I know, guys. It's the same. I'm feeling the same way right now. So anyway, so this first episode is a really good one. One thing to mention is that this is the pilot episode. They refer to it specifically as the pilot. They actually did it as 2 parts because there's a lot of content just in those 2 parts. So I'll be doing them in 2 separate reviews, but they are technically, if you watched this one and then the next one, you're the pilot first part, which is this one, followed by the next video, you'll get the full pilot. But I'm going to do them as separate reviews because that's how they were done in the show. So just wanted to clarify any confusion anyone may have about this, just so that everyone completely understands what's going on here. Alright, so anyway, let's get to the review. So I wanted to mention a few things quickly. We find out that in this story, one thing that was mentioned early on when they were like revealing early points of information about the show, they spoke about how in this case Bumblebee was supposed to end up being the leader. Now that was something that's very interesting. There has been mention of that in the past, that they would consider doing that, and personally I'm glad that they chose to give him a voice for once, because as many people know, other than G1, he really usually doesn't have a voice. Most of the time, I mean, there's a couple of variations where he does, but a lot of times he does not have a voice. I mean, obviously the animated series that happened on Cartoon Network a few years or so prior, that one he I believe he did. But I mean, for example, Prime, he didn't have a voice, and there was 1 or 2 other seasons that definitely he did not have a voice. So it was nice to have a voice for him once again. Also, this is definitely in the same universe or spectrum as G1 and that animated series that they had for Cartoon Network, since that animated series was in the same spectrum as that, although it's kind of like a different way of looking at things also. But anyway, let's continue. So we start off the episode seeing Bumblebee working with this new recruit at this police job, because it's supposed to be after the original G1 had taken place, where you know, Bumblebee had worked with Optimus Prime and all that, and he's supposed to be like a police officer. And he's teaching this new recruit named Strong Arm, who is a girl, just if anyone's curious. The reason why I say this is because looking at the appearance, other than the lips, you really can't necessarily tell. I mean, the voice sounds like could easily be confused for a young boy. It's true. Other than the fact that I can some of the episode 2 or 3, the second part, they do finally specify that, oh yeah, it's they say she, so it's obviously clear to them. But other than that, you really don't know unless you're really paying attention, or you just played out like, oh yeah, it's a she. I had a feeling it was a she, but at the same time I could see that being just a young boy. since they're supposed to be teenagers. Anyway, so we end up seeing them. They're on Cybertron, so obviously this is after all the Decepticon stuff had happened, and they're patrolling around. I just wanted to check something over. Right. Okay. So also apparently this is obviously when Optimus has already died. For those that have watched G1, you would probably know that Optimus does at one point end up dying. But he's believed to be dead. It's not really certain as to whether he is actually. It's not really certain. What ends up happening is that we end up seeing Strong Arm see a minor vigilante named Sideswipe traveling around a little bit faster than usual, and Strong Arm wants to go after him. Bumblebee is not necessarily. Bumblebee thinks there's no reason for him to go after him because he's really not a bad bot. It's just that he's a bit more reckless, and that's just what it is. But anyway, Strong Arm's still determined to do so. What ends up happening is that then Bumblebee ends up seeing in a pool of water Optimus, and also what ends up happening, and what ends up triggering Strong Arm to actually go after Sideswipe is who am I thinking of? Sideswipe ends up doing a circle around near where the Optimus statue was, and yes, there's an Optimus statue because Optimus is considered this major character. I mean, obviously he is, but still, in this case, like, he's considered like a godly figure. He's remembered fondly and all that. And so Strong Arm's like, oh, this is so offensive, and so Strong Arm wants to go after Sideswipe, and Bumblebee's getting these visions from Optimus telling him that he needs to go to Earth, and this is and yes, he knows what Earth is. He knows what Earth. He knows all about Earth. He's been there. He has memories of Earth. So this is So again, this is definitely taking place after G1 because he is on Cybertron, and it's clear. And since Optimus is supposedly dead, this is clearly meant to be after. This is not meant to be like after the wars for the major Transformers movie, the original Transformers movie. So then what happens is that Strong Arm goes off ahead, and Bumblebee. And what happens is that Strong Arm needs to, like, Strong Arm is a character. I want to say this now. Strong Arm loves to go by the rules. Strong Arm constantly brings up, oh, you have to follow code number 62627 or something like that. And Bumblebee loves to shut down Strong Arm's comments pretty often, and just in general, let's just say what ends up happening is that Bumblebee's like, okay, you know what, I'll meet you later. I'm not even gonna follow. Like basically, he's just trying to ignore him. So anyway, Strong Arm ends up getting into a situation where he ends up going after Sideswipe, ends up stopping him, and what ends up happening then is that the Optimus statue ends up falling over, nearly ends up destroying Bumblebee, but Bumblebee only gets just slightly hurt. Then Bumblebee goes to the Cybertronian Museum, and in order to go and try to get to Earth. Why does he have to go to the Cybertronian Museum? Well, for those that have watched the original G1, you may know that and also for some of the later seasons, there's an area known as the Space Bridge. So the Space Bridge is this area that allows all the different bots to travel from Cybertron to Earth or other locations around the world, and around the universe, and in this case the Space Bridge is operational. They have fixed it at this point. So the thing is that Bumblebee wants to go there, and he manages to sneak past guards because it's heavily guarded by some museum guards. What ends up happening also is that seeing how Strong Arm is a recruit and follows the rules, Strongarm ends up bringing Sideswipe along, Sideswipe along to where Bumblebee was, because Bumblebee needs to be there in order for Sideswipe to be put in jail. The thing is that they end up hearing some guards that are around, and but prior to that, Optimus ends up giving him more messages saying, "I'm glad that you have realized that I'm glad that you were following these messages. I'm glad that you understand that this is a mission for you to go to Earth, because that's the whole idea here, is that Optimus is giving Bumblebee a mission to go to Earth, just him." So what ends up happening then, also, is the fact that when Bumblebee ends up bumping into Sideswipe and Strongarm, he finally admits to Strongarm why he's been distracted, why he hasn't been focused, why he hasn't been helping Strongarm with Sideswipe, and the reason why was because he's been listening and following Optimus's messages. So from there, we end up seeing. We end up hearing Strongarm saying, "Oh, cool! Can I go to cool? So I'm allowed to go to Earth too?" And Bumblebee's like, "No, I have the knowledge here. You are a rookie, so you have no knowledge." Thing is that Strongarm doesn't really He tries to to maneuver the rules in a way so that he can get around it, so that he can go in a way. Because what ends up happening is that Bumblebee, when the guards actually start traveling around or whatever, Bumblebee has to distract the guards, because Bumblebee's the only one that really knows how to fight them or whatever, and so he ends up distracting them by basically being him. And what does that mean? He ends up basically just appearing in front of them and saying, "I'm Bumblebee," and the thing is that Bumblebee's this renowned hero because he worked alongside Optimus Prime, so them seeing him seemed good. The thing is that there was something that was clearly up, because he seemed kind of sneaky, and they could tell that something must have been going on. So at that point, they end up becoming suspicious, and they begin to attack him and say, "Oh, this is an impersonator, oh." And so then what happens is that they end up following Bumblebee into this room, and what ends up happening following this is that Sideswipe had previously been told, one thing I forgot to, I'm missing little points here and there, I'm sorry about this, guys. Sideswipe had been told by Bumblebee, because of the fact that Bumblebee thinks that, okay, well, Sideswipe is a little bit of a vigilante, so he probably should have some knowledge of how to hack machines, and Sideswipe apparently does, and so he ends up being told to hack the space bridge so that they can actually power it up and get to Earth. Obviously, just Bumblebee, but what ends up happening is that they end up going Bumblebee ends up coming over to the space bridge, ends up going through it, and leaving Strongarm and Sideswipe behind. The thing, though, is that just because he leaves them behind doesn't mean that they're not going to follow him. So maybe a few seconds later, we end up seeing Sideswipe and Strongarm come from behind and join him. One other thing that was shown prior to them appearing on Earth was that we ended up seeing, I'm sorry, because it's there's so much that happens in this episode. For anyone that's why you keep on skipping over points, why are you coming back at certain points, understand this now. It's a lot of stuff, because these episodes are jam-packed with so much detail. That's why it's two parts. So anyway, one thing that I forgot to mention also, prior to when they actually got to Earth, was that we were introduced to these characters. One of them is named Russell, or Rusty. His father calls him Rusty. I guess I could tell you this now, what his father's name is, because believe me, it's a lot more frustrating just calling him his father. It's better to just call him by his name. His name is Danny, the father. It will be a little bit more important later. It's just easier for me to just call him that, and I might call Rusty, or I might call him Russell. So just understand that now if you're curious as to why I'll call him one thing over another. Anyway, we end up seeing them. We end up finding out that they're living in the forest. Rusty's not really happy with being there. He finds it boring, finds it uninteresting. He wants to do something more enjoyable, but he's stuck with his father in the forest. And they're like in the forest. Like the city's nearby, but they're not there. That's the thing. And he doesn't really love that. What ends up happening is that there's like the supposed meteor crash that ends up happening, which ends up crashing on Earth. And what ends up happening following this is that I'm trying to think here. Following this, we end up seeing this other character, which we will get into soon enough, who is this who is a mini-bot. The mini-bot's name, I'm just going to say it now because though they don't mention it for a little while, it's better to just say it now just so that everyone's clear on who he is. His name is Fix-It. And the ironic thing about his name is the fact that he's broken. And how is this true? Well, let's just say this. He has a stutter in his programming. Like, when he speaks, there are certain things that he'll say, but it will involve him stuttering. And it's very clear. And the other thing we end up finding out is that Fix-It's not just a mini-bot, he's not just like this minor character. He's actually pretty important because the thing is that Fix-It ended up landing on Earth from a ship that was containing a number of Decepticon fugitives and prisoners kept in special cells. And the thing is that when he crash landed on Earth, a lot of the Decepticons got loose. Not all of them, but the vast majority of them ended up getting loose. So anyway, getting back to where Bumblebee, Strongarm, and Sideswipe are, Sideswipe is set free. Sideswipe tries to go off alone. When Sideswipe decides to do this, he ends up meeting up with Sideswipe ends up meeting up with Rusty, who is actually looking for that meteor at that point, the fake meteor, which is really just Fix-It. And what ends up happening is that they both freak out a little bit, but at the same time they're actually pretty reasonably friendly. I'm just gonna double check something here. I actually wrote up a whole bunch of stuff here about this first episode alone. I've watched all three of the first episodes so far, just trying to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Also, the ship that Fix-It was on is known as the Alchemor, just if anyone's curious. Let me see. I thought so. Okay. Sorry. It's just hard to remember half the stuff after because I've watched this stuff in great detail. One thing also was that following Rusty and Sideswipe meeting up, we are introduced to a Decepticon named Underbite. Now, Underbite's a known enemy. He's shown up in G1 before. He's shown up in a few versions of the show and certain things in general. And he's actually really big. He's usually not as big as he is here, but he's definitely big. And just to get this out of the way here right now, let's just say Underbite Underbite has a big ego. He loves to gloat about himself, and he wants people to know him. Like, he's all about being known. And we'll find out more about him soon. So let me explain a little bit more. So what ends up happening is that Underbite asked Sideswipe, "Oh, you must know who I am. I am the destroyer of like some sort of like Cybertronian world or whatever." And he's because he chomps up everything. We also find out that he ends up getting powered up by eating metal, because we end up seeing him chew on a car and then like gaining some energy or whatever. We'll get into that more in a little bit. What ends up, I'm just trying to also double check here because the second part really brings things into an interesting situation. Right. Okay. Right. Okay, that's right. So we end up seeing a transformation with I'm just trying to see here if I'm right. Yes. Okay. So at this point, we end up seeing that there's two major things that are brought up in this sequence. So first of all, we end up seeing Sideswipe transform into his vehicle mode. Now there's an awesome transformation sequence that goes on here, and that's one thing that I'll tell you this much right now. The vehicle transformation sequence that they perform for him and a lot of the different characters, it's something that they haven't done for a really long time. Like since the early Cartoon Network Transformer stuff, like Armada and Energon and all those, and Cybertron and all those seasons. This is like that. Those sequences where it's like those major transformations with the epic music and all that. That's something that they really like. I loved Prime. I'll tell you this much, I love Prime, and that's one thing that when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that's one thing that Prime didn't have that would have made it even better. Because it's true, they really didn't have like those really awesome transformations that a lot of seasons had. They really were just like quick transformations. They weren't these epic looking transformations that looked amazing when they would transform into vehicle mode or transform from vehicle mode into their bot modes. So anyway, Sideswipe ends up changing into his vehicle mode, puts Rusty inside of it, and then they ride off. They end up meeting up with Bumblebee and Strongarm, and Underbites ends up asking them too about the what do you call it, about if they know him and they don't know who he is. One other thing is that at this point they actually had already met Fix-It, Bumblebee, and Strongarm. Well, Sideswipe had met Rusty. Now, what we find out, all the stuff that I mentioned already about Fix-It. I just wanted to make that clear so that if anyone's curious, like they all meet up. One thing that we find out for sure is that Fix-It also, like, though he doesn't have like an ego, he loves to gain attention. Like he wants people to notice him because he's because the thing is that though he can't do much overall, he does have some potential. One thing also we find out is that though this is true. Wait, hold on one second. I am trying to look something up here. After all that's done, after they meet and all that, there's a little skirmish that ends up happening between all the Autobots, including Sideswipe, including Strongarm, including Bumblebee. I mean, they all end up fighting Underbite, and then Underbite ends up seeing a scrapyard from a distance, which then results in him going after the scrapyard. Now the thing is that at this point the mini Fix-It's also there, and Fix-It ends up analyzing what Underbite is, and we find out that Underbite is a Chompazoid. Now, as I mentioned before, Chompazoids like to eat metal. If they eat metal, they become stronger. So the more metal he eats, the stronger he gets. The thing is that where Danny and Rusty live, it's a scrapyard. So there's tons of metal. So if he eats up all that metal, he's going to become beyond powerful. So that's an interesting thing. So that ends off our first part. Overall, this first episode was great. I'll tell you this much right now. It gets better in the second part. Obviously, it's a lot of like early details. A lot of really just great stuff. One thing I also wanted to mention that another point that I wanted to mention about the sequence before with Sideswipe is the fact that he ends up so far at least. I mean, I've seen it in other episodes too. He ends up wearing this mask, this red mask that goes over his mouth. Now, why does this matter? The reason why this matters is because the only other character that really was known for having like a separate face for his speaking, for like a speaking face, and like him and a character battling would be Optimus Prime. So it's very interesting to see Sideswipe, a character that isn't Optimus Prime, actually have two different mask, one with the red like covered one, and then one that's the the regular speaking one. So it was kind of cool to see that too. And I just wanted to make that note because it's unusual to see any other character actually have that. So kind of different, kind of cool. Overall, I really like it. It does resemble a number of seasons. As far as animation goes, I wanted to mention that too. The animation seems to be somewhere in between Prime and it feels like Prime, but like a little bit more cartoony. That's how it feels. Especially because a lot of the regular Earth animals are shown and they look like they're drawn. They don't look like they're like amazingly detailed. They don't have like that serious depth. Like they look like they're 2D, while a lot of the humans, a lot of the Autobots and the Decepticons look like they're 3-dimensional. So clearly you can tell that there's also that and not just in that, but also just in general, like with the designs of certain characters, they do have that a little bit more of a cartoony look, but at the same time still have that Prime-like look. One thing also I wanted to say is that the voice of Prime, when you actually hear him, is the same voice as they use for him in Prime. So Optimus has the same voice. So they obviously managed to keep the same actor that they had back when he was on the hub. So that's cool. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have watched it yourselves. I'll tell you this much right now: it surprised me too. If you guys are curious to watch it, I definitely would highly recommend it. You can definitely find it online. I'm sure it'll be on TV in reruns soon enough, and I'm sure there'll be new episodes. Expect to see part 2 of the pilot in the next day or so, and I hope to see you guys then. Again, this has been Crazy Samurai 71. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and look me up on Twitter, guys. And thank you guys all for watching, and goodbye.